Greetings, adventurers. Welcome to your new abode. It seems you have triggered my teleport trap and have become the latest denizens of my little project. Not to worry though, for you'll find everything your heart desires here. Endless shifting rooms, dangers lurking in forgotten places, and treasures beyond your wildest imagination. Will you survive the horrors within, or will you be forever trapped in the dungeon of the miniature mage? Oh, hello. Welcome to Miniature Legends, a place where even the smallest of figures can be legendary. I am Zaxitar, and you seem to have found me having just finished up the latest changes to my dungeon tiles. For those of you who are new here, last year I crafted up some dungeon tiles. I designed them in Blender, 3D printed them out in FDM, and painted them up. Over the last year, I got quite a few lovely comments from adventurers proposing some logical improvements to my tile system. That paired with a year of use made me think of a few additional tile ideas I want to attempt. So I figured, why not go through these comments with you all, work on developing my new tile sections, and show you my methods for painting up my 2026 dungeon tiles. For those of you who would be interested in trying out these tiles for yourself, I have them available to download for free on Thingiverse. And all I ask is for you to let the YouTube imp know that you like this channel and want to see more content with a comment down below. Now, let's get started with the first set of comments. It seems I overlooked a few tile types last time. I can certainly make these and add them to the project. The 1x1 tile might be a bit difficult to magnetize, but that shouldn't be much of a problem for play. I opened up Blender and I got to work with a 2x2 tile, cutting it down in edit mode to grab the single tile impression. I removed the walls so I could extrude the entire mesh border at once. Then I brought in another tile to match the depth and extruded the edge. A new face, and I had a 1x1. From here, it was a simple matter of using the mirror modifier to expand the tiles as needed. With a bit of editing magic, I had a few new tiles. Well then, what's next? Oh, magnet holes. Yes, I did indeed spend quite a bit of time drilling holes last time. That would save some time for sure, and hopefully these adventurers would also find it useful. Jumping back into Blender, I created a new cylinder object. Scaling it up to roughly the size of the magnet, I then rotated it and moved it in to intersect the tile. A quick application of a Boolean modifier and I was able to carve out a hole. To make sure my magnet holes are evenly spaced, I used the mirror modifier on the cylinder, mirroring across the X and Y axis to create some evenly spaced duplicates. I wanted to make sure my magnets would fit, so I booted up the printer and quickly printed out a single test tile. That should work great with a 1mm by 2mm magnet. But I wasn't done. I still had a series of tile variants I wanted to make. Remind me again, Imp, what were those? Oh yes, stairs. This was a bit more complicated than the previous designs. I got to work by creating a blank tile. Then, I cut it using a cylinder and the Boolean modifier to form a simple shape that I hope fits well with my existing tiles. Copying the mesh, I formed a series of rising steps. Then, once I was happy with the shape, I merged them and remeshed the new stairway. The descending steps were much easier. I took the height of a single tile and cut out a section I needed with the Boolean modifier. A quick magnet hole, and it was done. Let's check that off. Next was the ritual circle. I quickly sketched up the circle in Krita, and then moved back to Blender, where I used the displace modifier in a plane to conform to my drawing. An extruded edge and some magnet holes, and we were done with that too. Wonderful. What's next? The water tiles. First, I crafted a few blank tiles, making sure to magnetize them and give them a bit of drop in height compared to the standard tile. This space is critical for water effects so that it sells the illusion of depth. Next, I brought in one of the 1x3 tiles, aligning it with a new blank tile and erasing a section. Switching to a lasso select, I drew a random pattern, trying to give the impression of crumbling masonry. Once I was happy with it, I dissolved the vertices and extruded the mesh downwards, merging with the blank tile below. A quick remesh, and I had a new ruined tile. I quickly repeated that with a 1x2 and got the new water tile sections ready to print. A few prints later, and I had at least one copy of every new tile. I began by magnetizing them, using a drop of green stuff and a 1mm by 2mm magnet in each hole. Green stuff is a powerful adhesive when dry, but occasionally I didn't get a strong enough bond, so a drop of superglue is an easy fix if that happens to you. I find a sheet of wax paper is useful for applying magnets in this manner, as it prevents the green stuff from sticking to anything you don't want it to. I got to work sanding up the tiles, doing my best to smooth, or at least disguise, the FDM layer lines. Then, I gave them each a quick prime in black using my airbrush. If you don't have an airbrush, not to worry, these tiles should be easy to prime with a rattle can or even brush on primer. Bringing out my Liquitex craft paint, I got a dollop of neutral gray and began to apply it to the tiles, giving each one a somewhat patchy coat. This is actually ideal, as stone tends to have natural variation in color, so it helps sell the texture of the tile. Then, I came in and darkened the lines with a 50-50 mix of neutral gray and Mars black. Once that was done, I applied a thick, dark brown wash across all the tiles. For the stairways, I took some thinned down Mars black and painted in some darkened recesses. Then, taking that same Mars black, I also cleaned up the edges of the tiles. I hit each one with a quick dry brush of khaki paint, and then sketched in some cracks and fractures. As a final touch, I applied a few drops and smears of Citadel's Blood for the Blood God technical paint for a bit of color. As for the water tiles, I began by applying a coat of PVA glue along any flat surfaces. After they had dried, I primed them off camera and applied a layer of dark blue-gray as a base coat. Following it up with a patchy coat of dark blue to give the water some appearance of variable depth. Gathering a generous brush of Liquitex gloss gel, I began to apply a thick coat, doing my best to sculpt in some water motion as I did so. This effect increases with multiple applications, so I applied 3 coats of gel. Then, wanting more color variation, I applied a thinned down teal contrast paint to give the impression of algae growth. I gave each tile one final coat of gloss gel to seal the glaze in place, and as a final touch, applied a thin white edge highlight across the most prominent ridges of the gel. A quick matte finish, and they were done. Excellent. Let's test them out, shall we? Wonderful. How do you think these tiles turned out, adventurer? Did I miss any tiles you think would be a good addition to this set? Leave me a message down below and your idea might end up in the next video. For now, if you want to see more of my work with miniatures, why not click on the video on the top left? I hope to see you again soon. Farewell, adventurers.